Hello and welcome to the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling. I'm your host, Rob Kammer, and this week, special guest coming up on the show. He is Midwest, Central Illinois-ish. Well, I guess it's not really Central Illinois, but Northwestern Illinois standout, Matt Hatter. We are all mad here, and we are right now all mad for Matt Hatter coming on the program, talking about a myriad of topics, so mostly talking about coming up through the pandemic era to, now getting ready to debut on the main show of Dreamwave Wrestling. We also sneak in, what it was like to work with the ex-Bombers who recorded the theme song for the Jim Cornette Experience. And, cool dude to talk to, super easygoing. And I need to apologize to him specifically, and I don't know, we'll see how good my limited editing skills are, but man, oh man, technical difficulties were I would say the death of me, but I'm talking to you right now after the fact, so evidently I did survive, for better or for worse, depending on your opinion of me. Though I'm hoping if you're listening to this, you at least quasi like me. I don't know, maybe your friend conned you into listening to this here podcast and listen to the crazy guy mouth off for various indeterminate times. But that being said, we got Matt Hatter in the show. Cool dude who's tearing it up right now. And so with that being in mind, if you made it this far, great. If not, I don't know what you're listening for, but let's just go ahead and get ready for that. Take a pause for the cause, get yourself an energy drink, a coffee maker perhaps too. Get those affiliate links, plugs in there. And when we come back, we'll have Matt Hatter. Hey folks, the Confusion Wrestling Podcast has become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. And we are back. The Confusion Wrestling Podcast. As I said at the top of the show, have a very special guest sitting in the studio with me this evening. He is ZOWA Live and now upcoming Dreamwave standout, Matt Hatter. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
Awesome. How you doing, buddy?
I can't complain. I'm finally glad that I finally shut up enough to actually start the interview instead of just wasting your time with rando anecdotes prior and new catchphrases that aren't catchphrases yet.
Yeah. And I don't know how to shut up, so that doesn't help.
As I said, I name drop in all for listeners at home, almost every setup for the interviews. I'm explaining the process. I reference JT Energy, who just never stopped talking during the interview, which is why if you look at these interviews and you go through the time stamps on them, most of them 45 minutes to an hour, and then there's JT Energy's episode that was an hour and a half because it was just Midwestern goodbye and interview somehow.
Love that.
Oh, but miss JT, but. We'll wander around aimlessly, but we'll at least focus on you to begin with. So I always start the podcast out with the always original, never before asked question. What made you a fan of professional wrestling?
I grew up watching WCW with my dad and having the cliche couch cushions for tables, cardboard boxes. Dad ripped his shirt. I was always a Macho Man. And then fell out of wrestling, grew up, and then another friend of mine got my wife and I into the Bullet Club. So I started watching New Japan. She started watching GCW. And then so when AEW kind of brought everything together, I started following GCW more. And she actually is the one that took me to my first deathmatch.
Oh, so sorry to interrupt, but we just kind of jumped right in with the deathmatch stuff. So who'd you see for your first deathmatch, or what was the show?
It was Matt Tremont's retirement match with Alex Colon in Indiana. It was the the first collective after the pandemic.
I love Matt Tremont. Like he's a guy that grew on me over the years. Because when I first saw him, like I'm not gonna lie, like he's a guy I just went like, oh, he's one of those fat slob guys who are death matching because they can't do anything else. But also, I didn't know anything about him when I first when I first saw him and just saw him do just the standard deathmatch stuff. And as the now decade has crossed, like dude is actually really good and just
Yes,
loves. He's a good dude and loves the business. Can't say enough good things about him now,
it,
but
the sound of the light tubes that made me go, "Oh, okay." And then the story they told, like the just the whole ride of the whole story was like, okay, that was just a really good match with a lot of really cool weapons. And so it just kind of snowballed from there.
I guess my question was like I think it was interesting that uh, coming back into wrestling was the combination of GCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Most folks come right back into what they left off with. Um, but I guess kind of like to piggyback off like the New Japan front of it, at least initially, like what about like the Bullet Club that brought you back into wrestling in general?
So I think it was a lot of just the storytelling. Like Japan's storytelling is so much different, and because it was like so unique to itself, that's why I gravitated towards it. And then New Japan just has a really good blend of so many styles that having essentially the Americans be the bad guys against the Japanese in Japan, that whole story arc and how all of that happened was just like, this is just a lot of fun to watch. And each character, you could just tell like what kind of wrestling they're going to do and a little bit about like how their character in the wrestling blends within the entrance and probably like the first lockup. Like it's just so good at storytelling. And then that transfer into GCW was very similar. Oh, like this is like just raw storytelling wrestling. Okay, I like this. And then that underground feel of death matches, especially during COVID. Like I'm a punk rock dude, so like I love that whole like counterculture. So that being the thing that's like nothing else is happening, so at least we're still entertaining people. And that whole underground feel just kept me gravitating towards it.
The thing I really like about GCW is that they've moved kind of just past some like the deathmatch moniker that kind of was their claim to fame originally, and have really become um, it's tossed around way too much. But one of the spiritual successors of ECW, except ECW will say like around like 1995 or so, when you had like your Benoits, and they brought in the Luchadors first and whatnot, and so I see a lot of parallel with GCW
Yeah,
now, where it's like every match is a contrast of styles in some way, shape, or form,
yeah.
even within the match itself.
It's a variety show, and they're so good at taking the different styles and having it work.
Yeah, and then like and we're not even gonna like touch the collective because that might as well just be like 20 different companies under the GCW
Yeah.
banner. Hence the collective, because I feel like the collective is worth almost worth a Triller subscription all by itself.
Oh, we just try to go.
That's good enough too. I'm not that cool that does the full on road trips terribly often, though. Actually, that's a lie. I was about to say like once in a blue moon we go to Chicago. No, once in like 5 years we go to Chicago. But Des Moines, on the other hand, that's a little. Even though it's a longer trip for us, it's a little more fun. Uh, in our case, it's more for wrestling Revolver than anything else. But digressing. But it's I say refreshing. We'll maybe use the word to talk to another fan of like the deathmatch. So like, what brought you into like the deathmatch part of GCW and or just professional wrestling in general?
My wife and my friend. Because like yeah, I had that mindset of like the death matches in real wrestling, like that whole like you don't need talent to hit people with weapons. And then they were like, no, you just need to pay attention. And so like I said, she took me to my first death match, and like halfway through the match, I'm like, I get it. This is awesome. And I want to say I started training, I want to say like 6 months after the collective.
So, well, we'll just kind of jump into there. So, like, what made you go from fan and cross the proverbial guardrail into saying I'm going to get trained?
I was friends with some of the local wrestlers and just watching wrestling. Kaylee kept saying, like, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this. And so finally she's like, I need you to get out of the house. Either go do some martial arts or go hang out with your friends in your underwear. And so I chose to go hang out with my friends in my underwear. And so just kept working at that, trained, and then yeah, just kept going. I just didn't stop.
And you went through was it ZOWA Wrestling Academy at that point?
Yep.
So I'd been like Christian Rose is like the one of like the guys. So, like, what's it like working with Christian?
So my training was a little bit different because it was COVID. So I had Christian Rose as like the head trainer, but they were bringing in like everybody. I had at one point CJ Sparza and Stephen Wolf. I had Mike Hartenbauer a lot, Bucky Collins. Like the list goes on of all these people that influenced me because COVID. So training under Rose was different for me because it was very hands off is a bad way to say it. It was him checking, watching my progress, and then having to handle so many other things. So my experience with him didn't actually like really start until I was about 2 years into the business, and then started really working with him and the TEC and work. Well, I guess how long Dreamwave's been around? 2 years, 3 years. Anyway, like right when Dreamwave started coming around, that's when I just started really focusing on Dreamwave, and Rose and the TDC guys were all. That's when they started like really working on or working with me and developing me.
Oh, so you got a real hodgepodge for better or for worse. It's
That,
because like the guy, because the guys you list, like, yeah, they're all very different stylistically, and I know anybody can teach you the meat and potatoes of it, but it's just kind of interesting to hear like CJ and Stephen Wolf are
yeah,
both known for their flying. Hartenbauer is like your old school, like, I'm going to get drunk and then beat you up, kind
yep,
of in the vein of like the Crusher and the Bruiser
yep.
and whatnot. So like I find that very much interesting. And have you been able to pull like little things from each of those guys, or have you just kind of done
Well,
your own thing per se?
if you look at my wrestling is a hodgepodge. It's I do swantons. I do a swanton off the post. So suicide dives. When I was learning from CJ and Wolf, that was more of a psychology lesson, less of a flying lesson. Um, but you can definitely see that those two, I like jumping. You can see I'm very brawly, like Mike Hartenbauer. You can see in a lot of my move set some Christian Rose. You see what I'm saying? So like everybody has a piece in my wrestling style, and that's why my wrestling style is relatively unique to myself because I didn't get trained in a structured manner.
I guess not being there to see how it was properly structured up, but like, do you feel like you potentially like missed out on a little bit with kind of like, we'll say, the social aspect of like the traditional wrestling training, where you do have, however small a group it is, but like you are the batch of you are all there to work together and bounce ideas off of each other.
I would say no. I because when I came up, it was COVID. Nobody really had those. You had your very very small groups, but because I was able to train when I did, I kind of had a head start over the next like Black and Brave and Freelance because they were going to training and into the world when I was trained, trying to get into the world. And so it was just a super weird time. And so like I mean I would say like for a little bit I was kind of like I feel like I would have more contacts if I went to a Black and Brave or a Freelance or anywhere, but like that was pretty short lived once I
How,
realized, nah, dude, I got all these people that like once Dreamwave came back and it really like got hammered home, like the names of these people because I didn't know anything about the local independents really outside of GCW. So like seeing all of my friends and the people that taught me wrestling like on these huge banners, like, oh, I'm just being whiny. I need to sit down and shut up. It was super humbling because like I was friends with these guys before I became a wrestler.
Yeah, so this is me playing armchair psychiatrist. But do you think that kind of already be like being in that circle like affected either how you trained or kind of like how you come into the business like from the ground up?
So I think it helped in that they already knew my personality, and then once they started seeing that work, okay, like this guy's actually wanting to learn, we'll invest in him because they already just knew me from hanging out. Um, like other than that, I have no complaints on how I came in. It's such a weird just listening to everybody how they trained. I cannot like sympathize with it at all because like mine was just looking back on it, such a wild experience.
And by the sounds of it, and this is me just talking to other folks who've trained during the pandemic era, but like most of the guys I've talked to that trained during like the pandemic era, like their training was still quasi like traditional. They just except they went from a class of like 12 to 20 to now a class of like 4 to 6 at any given time, or like they're or the class would be that technically the class would be that size, but there'd be like class A, class B, and so like the school would run 5 days a week, except your classes would just be Tuesday and Thursday or
Right.
Monday,
It was
Friday or whatever.
Yeah, it was 3 days, and then so like I guess there was structure. Like obviously, like, everything was safe. Like I learned how to run the ropes. I learned my cardio. Then I did started bumping, and then so everything was structured safely. But when you have three different people teaching you the same suplex, three different ways, and all telling you, well, you'll find your own way. Well, I just stole all three of yours way and just doing it now. Like I don't know how else to explain it. Like um Cyto suplex. I learned how to do that before I knew how to do a back to belly because I asked Rose to teach me. Like I just really started learning how to really early on listening because I started training in my mid 30s, listening to the guys that have been doing this for 20 years that are my age, how to take care of my body. So I just started slow. Cyto suplex was my cool move. And I could just keep, and then start working forearms because a lot more forearms because of Rose and Hartenbauer. If you watch my matches, this I didn't realize this got called out to me. You can tell who I learned the most from by my forearms because Rose and Hartenbauer throw them different.
That's like somehow going 20 like going into the future while going 20 like 20 not even 20, like it's closer to like 40 years in the past. uh like once in a blue moon I will listen to like the Jim Cornette experience, and we'll segue that a little bit later too. That's
Yeah,
not meant to be an actual segue. But he talked about in the olden days, basically once you kind of like learn not to kill yourself or your opponent, that you would just get when you go on the circuit, you would just or the territory, you would work, the first match with one of the veterans, and basically they would just be like, okay, this loop, this we are just going to do. Your big move is going to be the forearm. Your
yeah,
your offense is going to be forearm based. This week or the next 2 weeks, and so like I'm just going to kick your butt all over the ring. You're going to fire up, hit me with a batch of forearms, and then we're just going to go to the finish. And then the next time, the next loop, you're going to hit me with a suplex and a couple of forearms, and that's how they built everything
yeah.
up, rather than just kind of like sequestering everyone now for 6 weeks to 3 months to however long people hang out in the schools before making their debuts.
See, I never really put that together because you're right. Like my first year, I wrestled I think 9 matches because it was just the local shows, and then I started just showing up at different places and being helpful and quiet, you know, and just letting people teach me. If there was a ring, and I wanted to learn something, I had somebody teach me before the show, or I'd practice something. And so I would just keep doing that while bouncing around, I guess, the Midwest territory, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. You see what I'm saying? And just utilizing that and all that information, and then always bringing it back to like ZOWA and now Dreamwave was, yeah, I've never really put those two together. That's kind of interesting.
And like people don't think about it, but like we like the kind of like like the Illinois, lesser extent Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa like triangle like has a lot of like good stuff in there, and like obviously Indiana at various points has had their own thing going on too, especially in the mid 2000s. But we got a lot of companies and a lot of guys who've been in the business for quite some time, like either doing well for themselves or been like really good at passing on their knowledge. Like, again, like your Hart and Bowers, Christian Rose, closer to me. We got, I mean, the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, but headed up by the old independent tag team of Tyler Black, Merrick Brave, Black and the Brave. And I'm not quite as great with the Wisconsin scene so much, but then I guess also Minnesota's got like First Wrestling and whatnot too.
Yeah.
So like we got a solid core of like good wrestling around the area that's outside of the Minnesota part of it's not that bad of a drive if you're willing to hit the towns.
No, and there was a while there I was hitting Chicago and Milwaukee in that area like multiple times, or like I would hit all of those like spots in one weekend, and I would see the same fans, and that's just what they do is they were retired and they just hit whatever shows they wanted to all weekend. And so like that was interesting, getting heckled for something I did the night prior.
I, I guess when like I guess how does that affect you as a performer, like working like say for those same handful of folks that go to like every show, or even like like same companies, like they run their own circuit compared to like doing say like a free show at during like a festival or at a bar or something of the like.
At first it was really stressful because like you have to kind of find your voice when talking to just people in general, and I am insanely socially awkward, so that took a while. So my brain was trying to process everything that I know how to do, plus fan interaction, plus it's a lot. So that one took me a while. Then the first time, just to talk to fans regularly. So the first time that I got heckled like that for something that I did the night prior at a whole different state, it made me just kind of like freeze, like I don't know what to do, until my brain recognized like the voice, and it's like, ah, you suck, because it totally made me like freeze for half a second. Luckily, at the beginning of the match, but like I was so annoyed by that, so I was just like adamant that that never happened again. Now I just fire back. I just yes and them.
No, I mean that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be like the weird like the weird thing. Like I like to tell the story of like I never understood or I never learned the dynamics of like different wrestling companies until I was pushing 30, because really like I didn't start going to independent wrestling until about the time like until I was like around 27, 28 or so, just because I just didn't know. We like the internet had just finally caught up to like, hey, we can promote professional wrestling via Facebook, or
Right.
there used to be like a couple of websites dedicated to like Central Illinois wrestling, and like do that. And but I didn't know how like things vary from company to company, and so I learned just because like I laugh now because I learned that just because something happens in one company doesn't mean that person is going to be doing that stuff like in the next company. I famously said like Knight Wagner was a hated heel in SCW Pro, and then I went to IWA Midwest in Pekin where he also showed up, and as soon as I heard U2, I started booing because he's like the only wrestler that uses U2 as their theme song. And then like and then he hits the curtain. He's like, "Yeah, come on, everyone, woo!" I'm like, that is not a heel right there. Whoops.
My go-to is if I was a heel the night before is, look, I was hungry, I ate dinner, I made sure to eat breakfast and lunch today. So I'm sorry, but also like you guys know me. Do you expect anything less? No? Cool.
I mean, like, well, if nothing else, like in terms of how like your character, like presents itself, like really, like you just slip into those roles like without too much explanation. I feel like, I mean, you're just a couple letters off from Mad Hatter. We're all mad here, as you like to say and put on your jacket. You know, you're mad. You're mad. We don't know what we're gonna get.
I mean, split personality wouldn't be too far off. Jekyll and
Uh,
situation. Nothing scarier than a psychopath that's still articulate and intelligent.
Exactly. I mean, my argument was always be like, I hate the traffic, so like traffic would make me just a bad guy potentially any night any night of the week, and I know some people who would be the first to tell you. You can tell when I've not had a good drive because someone tried to kill me in their car just because they're negligent. But I'm always a bad guy. Don't let my smiling face or attempts to be hospitable for the show tell you otherwise.
I don't see you ever getting angry.
Oh, you don't pay attention to my social media at all. You're a good guess. Is not done their research on me.
I log in, check my messages, post the thing, check the comments, get off. I don't use social media very well. My wife has to get me on social media to post stuff.
I mean, mental health wise, that's probably for the best. Most social media is a cesspool nowadays, and I've also famously said that if it wasn't for this here podcast, which evidently you have to promote in some way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
I might have Facebook just to keep in touch with extended family members, but
Yep.
nothing else.
I wouldn't be on Facebook. I'd use Messenger. That's it.
Wow. That's like this. That's, well, I guess we're closer in age than I've tried to say. But I was like, I'm just the old school guy that's had Facebook since it was only allowed when it was only college kids on it and whatever. Uh,
I
Back in
was
my day. But anyway, yeah, social media cesspool. Rob's angry all the time. Those are the two takeaways of this here of this here podcast. I I need to I need to channel it and be kick it up to the old school TNA and be like Mad Mikey, except I'm a foot taller than Crash Holly ever was, so I don't know if it would work near as well, being over 6 feet tall when he was only like 5'2". But yeah. Okay, I don't think he was that small. I think he was a little bit bigger, but I'm not pulling that up now. Someone correct me in the comment section.
they will.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's I don't know whatever. It's yeah, it's social media. Well, I mean, it's media. People are just going to correct me all the time anyway. Or just let me know how I'm wrong, even when it's just an opinion, and therefore technically can't be wrong because it's just an opinion. But anyway, back to the ring. Never mind that. There we go. I said one of the catchphrases before we logged on here. There we go. Barely use it during interviews, but so we talked about getting into the business, how it's kind of worked out for you. You've been a mainstay for ZOWA overall, and that's kind of where it's kind of the home promotion of a
Yeah.
chunk of your trainers. What's it? I like to ask everyone who's relatively newish into the business, like, what's it like, being in the ring, like with your trainers, especially if you're doing matches that actually have crowds to them and not just in like whatever training centers, well, the training center.
Nerve wracking. It's a whole different sense of pressure. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just like it's different than wrestling my friends. Because then, like, if something like it's just there's a different kind of chemistry, and like with somebody that I either look up to in like Dreamwave or ZOWA, or somebody, you see where I'm going with that. Like, just there's always that next level pressure of like I have to meet my own expectations, and be able to hang with somebody. And so there's now, like, if you put me in I've had 2 matches with Rose, one singles, one triple threat, and that triple threat was an experience. That's one of my favorite matches. And then I had a no DQ with Mike Hartenbauer. That was kind of nerve wracking because like he's the one that helped teach me the psychology and of hardcore and why you do the things. So having that match or like Matt Cage last weekend, man, like it's Matt Cage. Like I didn't, I give him crap for always retiring, but sorry, Matt. Uh, I told him I'd stop making that joke. I tried. Um, But like he brought this up. I totally forgot about this years ago. I told him I wish I would have been able to wrestle him. And then we're sitting in the ring together. He's like, "Hey, you said this 2 years ago, and now you get to wrestle me." And that's when I was like, "Oh, thanks for saying. You could have waited. Cool. Thanks for that." it just it's just a sense of like it's this is a moment, so you have to perform more so like any other time where it's like what happens happens as long as nobody gets hurt. Cool. Every match is important, but then you have moments for your career.
And I mean, to put like an extra little like layer of, onto this here onion, working with guys like Matt Cage and Christian Rose, like both those guys have mouths on them too. Like they're not they're not going to like sugarcoat anything, or if anything, they're just going to roast you if you don't live up to even like their expectations of what you think you should have done for that.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's part of the reason why I'm so nervous in front of a camera. But you hand a live mic in front of 5 people or 500 people, I can talk forever. Like, just give me something to say and let me go, because Christian Rose, and then watch of Matt Cage, and essentially being in the ring with him, seeing how he does it from a different angle, like just how he is himself. That's one of Matt's influences on me, is how to just kind of be yourself, honestly. Still be bigger than life in the ring. Like how to do that. It's wild.
I mean, Matt Cage, like, and again, another phrase that's like another word that's tossed around way too much, but like, just underappreciated. And I think in the case of Matt, like, it's just because he kind of dips in and out whenever he just feels like wrestling, but he is so good. Just,
Which that's the way to be.
yeah.
That's the way to be. Like
I mean, if that's what makes you happy.
if he's like, no, I want to do that match, I'm gonna go do that match, and then want to like not wrestle for 3 months because he did it for 1,000 years, like that's the dream.
Right. I always like feel bad. And I do try to like stop like using that mindset of like, oh, I wish like so and so like could have gotten more opportunities. Like I don't know what happened. Like maybe the reason they didn't get opportunities is because they didn't want the opportunities. Do you ever think of that, Rob? Maybe someone came calling and they said no. Like no, I'm just doing this for fun. If I answer this, if I answer this, it's a job now, and it may not be fun. Like
Yeah.
because like I sit there with like Christian Rose again, I dude is so good, and like he's like one of those guys. He's like like 5 years ago, someone like said, Rob, make a wrestling company. Like, but I want to hear like the first 5 people that you would sign, and like the only rule was is they couldn't be signed by. Yeah, they couldn't be under an exclusive contract or a contract that precluded them. And like Christian Rose was one of them, just because he is that good. Like he can make you hate him. He can make you love him.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, just by doing almost the exact same thing. It's just who he's doing it to. But like you know, but like I'm not there for what he wants to do. Like it's easy for me to say like as a fan, I want the world for you. You need to be on television every week. Well, not everybody wants to be on television every week. Like that's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
so tirade aside on that, but but yeah, like iron sharpens iron, and I feel like if you even if you just pick up just just a hair of something like from like those kind of guys, like you're going to get better. And then like some of the guys we did message, like we ZOWA like explicitly like has like a batch of guys who've been in the business for quite some time who
Yeah,
just for what for better or for worse just hung around Illinois for the most part. Because like even looking at like Bucky Collins or Buck Nasty, or whenever you figured out what a Bucky Collins is, like
Chip.
yeah, dude's been dude's wrestled like some of the biggest names out there on the indie scene over the last like 15 years, and like still out there, like one of the most punchable faces in ZOWA. Like, I say that with like with the most endearment possible, because most of the time he's trying to be that punchable guy. Uh,
Someone who's punched him in the face, you've done full face. But
uh,
actually, another influence. He's a big influence on why I have the personality I do in the ring. So it makes sense now, Bucky being that influence, because Bucky can just, this is what I'm going to do today, and just come up with a character and just pull and just do everything that he needs to do, whatever heel or face for that character, and then like not do it ever again. Or that's the new thing for the next 3 months because that's what Bucky wants to do. It's so cool learning from another one of that group of guys you were talking about.
like I had like I laughed so hard this past weekend at ZOWA Fest, for whenever people end up listening to this. The combination of him wearing one of his belts on his head, like that pop, like I wanted to get a picture of that, but I like sat there in awe of Bucky Collins wearing, I think it was the tag belt, not the Hall of Fame belt, like
No,
wrapped around his forehead.
yeah, because we're talking about something. You started laughing. I look up and I go, "Oh God damn it, Bucky!" Like
Like
the dude dresses like an extra from the Dahmer documentaries. Like he again like Rose. If he decides that tonight he's gonna piss you off, he's gonna do it. If he wants you to be his best friend, he's gonna do it.
yeah, like the combination of that, and then he just like randomly, like I don't know how often he does it, because I don't go to ZOWA as much as I should, but like he just decided he wasn't going to wear boots for that match, and like that's the first time I've ever seen him bootless for a match. And then he's just like, I could be a foot model, and I'm doing this, but I'm doing this for free tonight only. Like what is this even? What are you doing?
I'm dying.
I just
Oh my
that's
Bucky.
I mean, that's why. I mean, let's be real. Like, this is the stuff that like makes me love wrestling, because where
100.
else can like somebody just be like randomly just be like, I'm gonna wear the title belt around my forehead. I'm just not gonna like. First time in 20 years I have wrestled shoeless. We're just gonna do it, and I'm gonna make like imply the crowd has a foot fetish along the way. Why not? Like, what's it gonna matter? This is only gonna be broadcasted on IWTV later. It's not live. It's fine though.
Perfect. It's perfect. It's the best job in the world. Because why did you go out there and do that? I felt like it. How'd that work out for you? Terribly. Or like however the answer is. Why not? The answer is we never ask if we should. We usually just ask if we.
Where else can you do that? I mean, we talk about wrestling like it's not the real world, but like where else can you like? I mean, okay, I could be shoeless now because I work from home mostly, so no one's really going to care. But like, where else can you go out in a a group of people in your chosen field and be like, I'm shoeless now? Like that's what we're doing.
Oh, I made one of the mistakes of leaving my gear in somebody else's car, and we drove 2 hours separate. So I wrestled in what I walked in on, and it was blue jeans and my combat boots. Sorry, that's my son.
And I mean, and well, to kind of compound that, when I talked to you this weekend, you didn't have 8x10. You didn't have your 8x10s. You you had Donovan Digest
Wait,
8x10s.
We're not saying he's a lot bigger than me. Okay, so I
I'm not
will
saying you
return.
stole them. You just had them.
I will
Mix up.
return him when I see him at Dreamwave. I'm sorry, Donovan. I don't know what happened. If you have mine, please don't hurt me. I watched a live match. Like that was my kendo stick that he used, and I don't. Yeah, no, I'll give them back, Donovan.
I mean, I just assume you guys just like grabbed the wrong envelope. Like you guys were like at the merch table next to each other, grabbed the wrong envelope, and
Only standing next to each other at the merch table. That's 100% what happened. But the fact that I had them that long, and then you asked, and I was like, yeah, and I like in that moment went, no, I not. That's not.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like I almost said like, well, I'll still buy it, but definitely just like write some like snarky message on it and be sure to like don't impersonate Dijak, but actually.
If I wasn't in a state of panic for half a second, realizing I had Donovan Dijak's 8x10s, my second thought was to like write something about how I had his 8x10s and like I'm donating the $5 I would charge, like just gimmick it up somehow. But like I was just like, oh no, oh no.
And this is like one of the first times we'd ever like actually interacted. So I try to like unless like we've really gone out of our way to interact with each other on social media or something of the like I try to behave myself the first time, and then like after that all bets are off. I'll snark whatever. But especially as a prospective guest at the moment, I don't I didn't want to be like extra snarky, be like, the guy's kind of a jerk. Maybe I'll just like tell him I'm sick when Wednesday comes. And then just ghost him when he asks to reschedule or whatever. Um, but but that's it's the weird and wacky world of professional wrestling, and that's why at least I love it. I won't speak for anybody else.
There's just been so many times that I've walked up to Rose or one of my friends and just been like, sit down, is kind of be like, that was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. And then express what the experience was, and nobody's surprised ever. Nobody's ever surprised. It's just like, well, yeah, wrestling's weird, man. It's like, okay, I need somebody who understood and then go about my life. Because there's things, it's just like, I don't know what's happening, but I want to see how this plays out.
That's the beauty of like improvisational arts. I feel like is that if you are like, I don't want to call it like a line stepper necessarily, but if you're like someone who just likes to see responses in people, I mean, you like that's just that is like that it is beautiful, especially if you're like making towns and whatnot. So like, who knows if you'll see these people ever again? Like, as long as you're not like doing something so stupid you go viral, like just do something little. But like I maybe when you said like that, no one like really was like, yeah, that sounds like something would happen. Like it makes me think of like the various memes of like, oh, this is the worst or weirdest of my life, and then like someone pops up so far. And, like
For,
or
for sure. That kind of makes me nervous. But
I mean, I'm in wrestling periphery. Like, I've never, stepped in the ropes of as a competitor, but like, I've had like so just like rando things just because I've hung out with enough folks or have talked with enough folks, or just someone random like listen to the podcast and had to put in their 2 cents. Like like I go like, what is even happening? Like, do you like I'll throw it out there just because I'm very proud of this moment. Do you know how many people I sent messages to because the Mighty Maccabee slid into my Instagram DMs? Like, I don't know, do you know who the Mighty Maccabee is? Oh, uh there was dollar wrestling DVDs at Walmart, and um they were like a couple of them were based on fundraisers hosted by Jeff Buchantz for the Maccabea games. He was a fencer who coached a fencing team,
okay.
and like they were fundraisers. They were never really meant to see the light of day, really, but they were recorded, and then somebody like got the rights to them, and like since they were like public domain, just sold them for like $1 at Walmart, and they got this cult like following about them because they're so bad. because they were filmed like in the mid 90s, and so they had guys that probably like were very much past their prime coming on it. So we had, or guys that were just kind of funny to begin with. So like you had like Killer Kowalski, who was like in his 80s, like having a battle of the claws with Baron von Raschke, who had functionally retired in like 88. And like King Kong Bundy, who was never the most mobile, and stuff like that. And then Iron Sheik, just before he got famous for just shooting his mouth off. Like and then Buchan's would wrestle as the Mighty Maccabee, just to pop the crowd for for the event, because the events were Maccabee Mania, which for the Maccabea games. And but like over like since like I don't know, like 2005ish, like they've developed this cult following for just being so like that they were so MST3Kable in wrestling forms. Like it's almost like $5 wrestling, except it's $1 and you're doing this from your own home. And Brian Zane of Wrestling with Regret reviewed them and got like a ridiculous amount of views. So he ended up like partnering with Buchan's to do Maccabee Mania 3 like
Wow.
last year. So like nearly 30 years like after the original Maccabee Mania events, and broadcasted like live on YouTube and got like 21,000 views like when it went live, like it
That's
like
awesome.
yeah. So like so if you like bad wrestling, like so bad it's good, like if you could find Maccabee Mania, I believe the DVD sets were called like Grandmasters of Wrestling. But like I ended up like talking about it like on the podcast, and like a year later Jeff Buchan's like listened to it. It was just like, I'm really glad people were promoting Maccabee Mania, and like showed up in my DMs. I'm like, what is my life?
That's
I'm like, dude, Marty Maccabee is in my DMs right now. Like we had like the equivalent of like a 5-minute conversation, just like, hey, I'm really glad you covered this. Oh, like thank you. It was like so much fun watching the old DVDs and this event too. Oh, and it was I worked with so many cool people. I'm like, yeah, and like we both bonded briefly over our love of Crowbar, Devon Storm, because he was Maccabee's last opponent, and I've gotten to interview Crowbar on the show once, so we kind of like bonded how cool a dude he was and whatever. But
that's.
freaking wrestling, man, and
I just,
I'm not even a competitor.
I just feel like wrestlers, like refs, everybody that tries to somehow in their way be a part of this business, it's a specific type of person that constantly is either getting themselves in trouble, finding themselves in weird situations, and it's usually our own fault. So, like, the fact that these things happen consistently doesn't surprise any of us. Like, I think we all subconsciously recognize that we're the problem, but we don't care because it's.
Again, like where else can you can like live out these impulses without necessarily getting in trouble for it, like like just like even the in-ring stuff, that's not counting the locker room atmosphere where lord only knows what happens on any given night.
Like, one of my favorite weapons is a TV. And one of my matches, I was like, I'm just gonna glue a bunch of bottle caps onto the TV, because why not?
When it comes to like that stuff, like, oh, don't get me started. I'm still very salty about this. For King of the Death matches, they had fans bring the weapons, and I made what I called the Cotton Maiden. I glued shards of glass on the inside of a t-shirt, and like that, like my crazy behind thought people were gonna like somebody was just gonna take that shirt and just like shove it, pull it down over somebody's head or whatever. And I worked way too long and actually hurt myself way too much for it to not be used when I brought it, because I'm a sick son of a bitch. But since we've like totally got off the rails and now starting to like ramp up the technical difficulties, I do want to ask, like, you referenced being hardcore. Like, do you have any interest in like doing at least one off, if you haven't already, death match?
I would love to. The closest I've gotten to would be my Wonderland match at ZOWA. That has probably the one of the most intense matches is ZOWA because like at one point I probably had close to 300 thumbtacks in my body. Like yeah, I went really hard with that match. Just the stuff that I made. Yeah, the TV with I put my opponent's name in bottle caps on the. It was the birth of my kendo stick. I've got a kendo stick with bottle caps super glued to the whole thing. Um, yeah, yeah, I would absolutely do one. I think it would be fun.
I mean, I know batches of wrestlers who will do like a death match or a death match tournament just to say they did it, and then just go back to like regular wrestling.
I just know me. Like, if my wife's concerned, she has two concerns: that I'm gonna do one and not like it, or I'm gonna do it and fall in love with it. Because yeah, like every chance I get the reins on a match like that, I just keep ramping up, and it's not just the aggression and violence. I ramp up the imagery. I create some really, I get really creative with my weapons, and I love taking ideas or like things that you would see in a regular street fight or whatever, and just twisting them. So like wrapping something in barbed wire, like a Guitar Hero guitar. Uh, my favorite's the deathmatch teddy bear. It's a giant stuffed bear that has like gusset boards on the arms, and the head's got like a barbed wire crown, and there's skewers taped in, so it's literally like a deathmatch kit in a teddy bear. And so like you could do whatever you want with that, like just getting creative with the weapons and ramping the violence up at the same time. It's hopefully going to happen sooner than later.
I be sure. I mean, not that you're not good at posting that stuff on social media anyway, but like be sure to promote it because
Oh
I
yeah,
I I I love me I love deathmatch wrestling as a whole. Like, and I acknowledge the good and the bad with it, but like again, like some folks really do go all out with it, not just like, oh, I'm just going to dump a bunch of insert garbage in there and just throw people on it. Like some people like go full out because I've seen more than one variation of like the deathmatch teddy bear. I've seen it like all sorts of stuffed animals used,
oh yeah.
or a hobby horse was one of my favorite. Like they had a hobby horse style unicorn,
I
and
have
they had
a
that.
flamingo covered in thumbtacks that's been used in a few matches. That was my wife's. So my wife, my kids, they all help me make all my stuff. My wife actually makes all my gear. So it's not just me just sitting around. Like I have my kids coming up with creative stuff too. Like they're like, well, why don't you use this as a weapon? Well, let's figure out if we can.
I mean, who's more sadistic than a child? Like I've worked with so many children, and some of them are sicker, like, and they grow up to be totally well adjusted. But you just the power of imagination at that age.
Right. Right. Yeah, right.
I think they just think about it because like they don't know like that you're not so like they don't think of like the consequences. They just be like, yeah, it'd be cool if this happens, and then they move on to play with something else because that's how
Right.
childhood attention span works. Like
100%.
brilliant. So if we're gonna continue the fantasy book, like do you have a a preference? Like have you thought about like who you would want for like that first death match if you could fantasy book yourself?
Oh, um, off the top of my head, Tommy Trainwreck, because I've one of the guys I've learned so much from. Tyler Sullivan, Bobby Valentine. Oh man, like there's so many people up in ICW that are just really good with the Insane Eight tournaments and stuff. Like that's where that was my first promotion when I left ZOWA. I went up to Wisconsin to ICW and just started learning. So like any of those guys, for sure, I would love to have that be my first match. Um, Stumpy, I've learned a lot about that from Stumpy. He did my first no disqualification. Um, like if he were to ask, I would say yes. So like there's a good decent list of people I would pick for my first one if I ever got to pick, which it's wrestling. It's going to be, hey, bring any weapons.
Right.
Actually, yes, I keep a mobile no disqualification kit in my actually that's all I would need is just one or two steel chairs, and we can do a no DQ.
I mean, I didn't even like a brain fart on that one. Like, I never even stopped to think about Stumpy in a previous life. He used to be kind of a deathmatch guy.
Mhm.
Like, not he didn't go full all out, but he would just like show up randomly, like, I'm doing show up for deathmatch or two because he worked a lot of the IWA. We'll call it IWA Illinois family because it was Mid South and Midwest, and then
Yeah,
became and then there was like Impact Pro, which turned in, and then it merged and turned into like Sky Pro. Was it Sky Pro, and then turned into Midwest Impact, something like I don't know. That family Bush, family Wreath, was a long time ago, and hurts my head now. Think about how they branched off and came back together and all that good stuff.
yeah. I mean, if I was gonna fantasy book like a name, I would say Neil Diamond Cutter, because that's another one that now that I'm sitting here thinking, it's like I've learned so much from Neil from just being around him at ICW and the Insane Eight and all that stuff, and just he's very much like a here, I'm gonna teach you things so you don't die. Okay, like so. If I ever got a chance to wrestle Neil in a death match, that would be a dream. That would be a dream match.
I'm so glad he's finally getting his flowers. Like he's been killing himself for nearly 20 years, and like I feel like within the like only like the last like 3 people are like Neil Diamond Cutter, like he's you know top 5 deathmatch guys, and like forget that he's been doing this for ever, cutting
Yeah.
himself up and
Um,
cutting everybody else up too.
I have a theory about like why deathmatch got so popular recently. I genuinely think COVID happened. Everyone got bored. Wrestling is the only thing that was going on. Then everybody got angry, and then death matches. People started finding more death matches because wrestling became more prevalent. Death match is a good way to have a creative way to show aggressive stories that you couldn't tell in any other kind of wrestling.
Well, and death matches can very much thrive in a low to no crowd environment because I don't want to say because, but like a lot of famous deathmatch tournaments take place outdoors where you can kind of spread out the crowd anyway. Like so, like you're already kind of social distancing, so you don't die from shrapnel or whatever. And
You always see the people in the crowd that have like riot gear on that sit in the front row and stay. Like, it's all right, cool guys. Like, you're hardcore. Good for
yeah,
you.
right. But yeah, no, I can't find fault in that hypothesis. Most of us were cooped up, angry at the world in one way, shape, or form, either without going into the semantics and politics of it, various reasons to be angry during that time period, and also half steer crazy to go along with it. And but like I'm glad it's finally kind of getting its flowers, and like companies like ICW and GCW have kind of like taken that flag and made it and like tried to like take it a wee bit out of like what people viewed as garbage wrestling, and shown that there can be a little bit more to it, especially by bringing in folk who you don't think of as your traditional deathmatch guys or girls to begin with either.
Matt Cardona.
Deathmatch King. He's the king now.
I hate it. I hate how much I love it.
He's one of like the stuff he does. Like he's like I just sigh, close my eyes, and just like wag my finger at. Just like son of a gun, you got me. You got me. Like because like what are you gonna do? He takes one of the guys, one of the rare folk that have the ability to take just random stuff and just make it work somehow.
Very much so.
All right. I mean, I could talk death matches all day, but we've been at it for a while. I do want to touch just briefly before I, make you go over your upcoming schedule and your socials and whatnot. But yeah, we've referenced several times you coming up through Dreamwave, like sitting down, watching the shows, and like I've said on this podcast numerous times, like it's one of the best kept secrets in the Midwest, with the amount of talent they bring in addition to their kind of homegrown talent as well. Like it's an amazing show to be a part of, and it now has expanded so much that they have their own separate women's show, at
Yeah.
least quarterly as well. But you finally like started like working your way up into like the from just being being a helping hand going into like the pre-show, and then now you're going to pop up in the Goodness Gold Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. Like, how big is that just to finally kind of get that opportunity to show what you can do in a ring that you've worked so hard in?
Um, Honestly, I'm more excited than nervous and anything because um, Dreamwave has a way of every time you're in front of a crowd, it's an audition. It doesn't matter what your plan was, you have to adapt immediately. So Dreamwave, like one of my first appearances, was in a rumble, and I came out with a shopping cart full of weapons during a rumble and started beating the hell out of people in the middle of a rumble. Like it's just starting from literally a spotlight, shining a spotlight, turning it on, turning it off, to just where I am is wild, but also it's a testament to Dreamwave because that locker room is so full of just wrestling knowledge that all you have to do is just sit there and be quiet and helpful. And you'll walk away knowing something you didn't know when you were there. From, like you said, they bring in all these talent. Well, it's because that's why the homegrown's getting better and better and better because Rose, Vic Capri, Mike Hartenbauer, and plus then bring in Matt Cardona. We bring in Gringo Loco as a mainstay. You see what I'm saying? Like it's all of this information. You just have to work for it. And it took 3 years. 3 years of work paid off this summer. So Dreamwave's, it's like you said, the best kept secret, but it's its own monster, man. And it's not kept as much of a secret anymore.
I mean, yes, no. I mean, at least it's on like IWTV, so like anyone with an IWT subscription can see it. But like you don't hear Dreamwave across the list the lips of the hardcore indie folk terribly often unless they're already in the area. So that's why I consider it kind of a secret. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do there because I was like, I don't go there near as much as I want to because tickets do go super fast. And I'm not going to lie, I also sometimes have problems trying to get tickets during the workday, but neither here nor there. Do you get in there every now and again? Of course, watch it on IWTV. But as I'm also winding down, I'd be remiss because we referenced it before we come on before we come on the air. But I am mutes with a band called the X Bombers, and you got to take part in their music video for their theme. Well, now the theme for the Jim Cornette Experience. Can you just I don't know, briefly, or however long you want to go. I mean, I don't care that don't care that much. Like, you got to be in the official music video for Get the Experience. So, like, what was that experience like being able to work with a band who would now do the theme song for one of the biggest wrestling podcasts in the country?
Right. Um, it was kind of interesting how it happened. So I got tagged a bunch of times in their casting call. And so finally, whatever, why not? Sent it off. They responded and said they were going with somebody else that they wanted like the big beefy boys. Cool, makes sense to me. A couple days go by and they messaged me again and said, "Hey, we really like your vibe, so we're just kind of like we're gonna make this thing for you. Come hang out." I'm like, okay, cool. So I just hung out with them, like the theater nerd in me, the theater kid, got to just like kind of over the day like fall back into that, like I know what all of this does and what all of this means, and oh my god, this is a lot of fun. I haven't done this, and so you see what I'm saying? Just kept going and going and going, and then we just stayed. It's like just watching the process and just all the different creative minds looking at the same project from a wrestler standpoint, a musician, a videographer, kind of bouncing ideas off of everybody to create what ended up being produced was a different experience because it wasn't just wrestlers. It was so many different kinds of professionals. And so that was a big takeaway for me. And then they were just cool dudes. And I like the fact that we became friends and stayed in contact this whole time because they're just genuinely really cool people. And I kind of forget that. Yeah, that's the Jim Cornette podcast theme song. I think I did.
Yeah, there you go. I say it's one of those things, like I don't think about it either because I sit and listen to more like clips on specific topics, so I don't get to hear the theme. But I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. And then like we're mutes on socials, and especially like I referenced like after attending ZOWA, like I posted a bunch of pictures, and there's like, is that Hatter? Tell him we say hi, and also ask about the music video. I'm like, all right, I don't write down too many questions, but we'll at least anything for an extra 2 to 5 minutes of sound bites.
So I was only in it for like maybe a second, and the take they used was the one I didn't want them to use because you see that I'm laughing. I'm supposed to be like stern, but you can see that I'm trying not to smile because I can't remember. One of the wrestlers in the mask made a joke, and then they said action, and the last words out of my mouth were "you dick," as we were moving across the screen.
I
So
mean, I
like
feel like that matches the vibe of the video anyway, because you saw
100,
like, because for those who haven't seen the video, it's like,
it's a ride. Please go
yeah,
see.
yeah, like it purposefully breaks down like really quick
Oh,
and just gets into like just weird. I mean, it's very much pro wrestling while
think
still like being pro wrestling adjacent.
think like early 2000s Killers music video vibes. Like that, like everything's going on all around the musicians, and the musicians are trying to play while everything's going on. It's the best.
But yeah, I made sure to watch it like at least one more time before popping on here. Like, yeah, it's a blast of a video. But with that, I think I made all my obligations of technical difficulties, people saying hi, all that sort of good stuff. So I'll try to get you out of here on this. So where can we find you in the next, however long it is you can remember that you're booked for? Where can we find you online or merch?
Online is at Matt Hatter Pro for Instagram, Matt Hatter on Facebook. I will be at Dreamwave. December 5th is the Uprising show, the all women's show. December 6th is the Good as Gold show, so that's the Rumble that I'm going to be in. And then after that, ZOWA, December 13th, we have Jake the Snake coming in Nelson, Illinois. And yeah, the little like 3-year-old, 4-year-old is just like, not gonna lie, I've thought about trying to get my hands on a snake, but I was told no by multiple people who are way more responsible than I am. So I think a high five would be cool.
I mean, we've heard some of the stories Jacob told about having the snake. So I mean, very big responsibility, and people are a little bit more cognizant of these things nowadays than they were in the '80s.
My wife makes sure that there's people around me that helps me make good decisions.
Mine wishes there were people around me to make me good, do good decisions, because all my friends are enablers.
Yo,
Rob will die, so we don't have to.
well, she just trusts that they'll keep me from getting too hurt. Usually.
I mean, I mean, it's been a bit of it, but like the last Uprising show I went to, that we all now joke like they left me alone for 5 minutes, and somehow I almost got in a fight with Abaddon.
Fair. I mean, it's out.
And it was about video games. They misheard me make an opinion about Raw 2, a game I love, and they thought I said it was terrible, and they reacted like I slapped them. Like their head was down, scribbling the 8x10 for me, and all of a sudden, just like it was squaring up because I was
Don't
left.
don't hurt a wrestler's feelings. They get really angry when they feel feelings.
I didn't even like mean to we were talking about Fight Forever, and I noted I did note like how terrible the creator wrestler was, and then I was like, but it's not. It might be the worst. Oh no, it's not the worst. Raw 2 is the worst. And then they just heard Raw 2 is the worst
Yep.
and ignored the part where I was talking about creator wrestler, and like that was it. They were going to square up. And there's like I'm a big dude, but there is something like extra frightening when someone's like Abaddon's not a big person at all, and there's something like inherently even without makeup, there's something inherently terrifying about someone who's willing to square up to someone that's over a foot taller than you.
Like
But
I would fight them. I would have fun fighting them. It's gonna suck. I'm gonna feel it for a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, don't make Abaddon angry.
no, and like I was left alone for 5 minutes, and now I'm accidentally getting into. It's not like it's Manders where I'm purposefully antagonizing the bear. This was just me, this is me trying to behave, and now I'm rubbing people the wrong way. But anywho, before that gets derailed any further, I will try to remember to put all the proper links to the socials in the descriptor. Matt, thanks for coming on. Thanks for tolerating the technical difficulties, and I guess behave yourself with Jake the Snake, or if nothing else, like glean all of his evil, dirty tricks that he's learned throughout his career. And good luck at the Gold Rumble. Like we need you to get that contract and be the possibly next Dreamwave champion.
Appreciate you.
The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the descriptor below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.